You know, the best kind of joy, to use a word that is a big theme for Democrats, is joy that comes as a surprise. And there's nobody in this room who expected to be in the position they're in and to feel the way they do as Democrats a month ago as they do right now. What a difference time can make. And that was a big lesson for these Democrats. Now, a couple of high points. Yes, Kamala Harris talked about immigration, but excusing the situation of the status quo as being a function of one bill not getting allowed to pass by Trump is not going to be satisfying, not to independent voters, not for people who study the issue. That's my point. And they know that here. They know she's got a lot of wood to chop on it. The other big moment in terms of policy was a very interesting read in the room. Israel and support for Israel and the traditional notions of how we treat them as a key ally in that region was loud and pronounced. It was not as loud, as pronounced, or as sustained as what she said about Gaza having a right to self-determination. That got more applause. There were dissenting voices before she said that. The only time that happened in the speech. Now, what does that mean? Not that much here, but in the election, the idea of a radical part of this party is going to be very saleable to the opposition and a major challenge. And it was echoed in this room. Now, what does it mean? What did she do? What did she not do? What happens next as a result of this? Very important questions that we have a great voice on. Bill O'Reilly joins us now, a student of history, of political conventions, and of moments just like this. Bill, thank you for joining me. It's good to witness history with you. What do you make of the moment Kamala Harris had tonight?
Well, if I'm a political science professor and she submitted that speech for an exam, I would give her a C, as in cat. And the reason I would give her that low grade is because there were no specifics in the speech, none. No problem solving, no creative look at very complex situations, just the usual liberal Democratic line. And of course, it was well received at the Democratic convention. And that's a problem with both parties. They say stuff that isn't true, and I'll run down a number of things that the vice president said are absolutely false. And Republicans and Trump do it too. And the American people are subjected to it. Some of us know the truth and others don't. So anyway, let's get to it. So I agree with Kamala Harris that her story could not be acted out any other country in the world. She's right about that. Her story, my story, no way this happens anywhere but America. And I'm glad that we heard USA Today. We saw the American flags, and I'm glad that the vice president made patriotism front and center. Okay. All we hear about is that Kamala Harris is going to take on the big banks, big pharma, price gouging. She's going to take them on. I did not know until this evening that she took on the Mexican cartels. How? What was the result? We don't know. And I'll be so bold to say there was no result. Whatever she did was meaningless. But she's taking them on. She's fighting. We have to fight. Fight for what? Oh, the middle class. We have to fight for it. Well, the New York Times reports today that Kamala Harris wants to raise taxes $5 trillion. That's going to devastate the middle class as companies pass the cost on. Any economist knows that. So this is what I mean when I give her the C grade, Cuomo. You can say anything.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, look.
But you need to back it
understood.
up. She can't.
Understood, but a convention speech, a convention speech is not known for its specifics. Let's not this isn't a political science class. This is politics. And
doesn't
this is
matter.
about capturing the imagination.
If she wants to be president.
But Bill, it does. Yeah.
I'm not giving her a pass, Cuomo. She wants power. She wants to be president. She doesn't do press. She doesn't answer questions. She doesn't say specifics about how she's going to problem solve. Not giving her a pass. This is the biggest address she'll ever get.
I understand.
It goes worldwide.
I understand.
Good.
I understand, but that part's not accurate. You don't make your entire case for why you should be president the night that you're nominated. And if that is the bar, you've never watched a president pass in your life. So don't create an artificial standard out of convenience. This was about capturing her base, pleasing her convention, and giving them something that you completely discount, which is reason for hope and to capture their imagination. And if you don't think that matters in politics, it explains why you're a journalist and never ran for office. But I'm telling you, as someone who's been on both sides, if your people don't believe in you, and if you don't capture their imagination the way Trump has, the way Harris has to, then you're a loser at the start.
You can do both, Cuomo, and you know it. Don't give me any of this. It's
not
a
in one
convention
speech, not at a nominating
convention.
convention.
I'm sorry. As an American citizen, I'm insulted by politicians who launch BS and say stuff like, Donald Trump wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. That's a lie. The Supreme Court wiped out reproductive freedom. That's a lie. Okay? I don't want to be lied to, Cuomo. I don't care where it is. I don't want to be lied to. Am I unreasonable?
Well, if you don't want to be lied to, then you would have to say that you've been lied to by every president you've ever heard give any address like this. And it is not a lie that the Supreme Court removed a right. They absolutely did, and they gave it to the states. You're not a lawyer.
Baloney.
You don't understand it, obviously.
They kicked it back to the states.
They removed a law. They vacated a decision, and they gave it to the states to decide. They removed a national standard, and you know it.
Baloney. They kicked it back to the state. If you got a beef,
they removed it and kicked it back.
California, New York, you can have whatever you want.
They removed it and kicked it back. You had to remove it to kick it back
to the state.
No. They vacated a decision.
You can
they called
disagree
it
with
bad
it
law after
all
every
day long.
one of the judges said that it was stare decisis, that it was settled law. They then went back on that. They vacated it, and they gave it to the states to decide. You can't do that as a legal mechanism without removing the right. Without removing the initial
the Supreme Court, then.
Now, that's
remove
absurd.
The Supreme Court.
That's an absurd statement.
That is our system.
What else did you see tonight?
No, it's not.
Bill,
you're
leave it alone.
Absurd.
You're losing.
You're absurd by saying
losing the point.
They removed the law. They kicked the law back to the states.
Find a lawyer that doesn't tell you sound like an idiot. Make another point.
Is that all you got? That I sound like an idiot? Is that all you got?
I'm waiting. No, it's not all I got. You don't understand the law. You don't understand what their decision was. You don't understand what they did.
Of course I don't understand.
Listen, you're not going to listen to the truth. You're not going to listen to the rationale because you don't like it. You sound foolish. Now make another point. I'm giving you more time.
Okay. Cuomo, what I stated is absolutely true. The ruling kicked the abortion back to the states. I'm not wrong. And that's what Schumer wants to do. It's what Biden wants to do. It's what Harris wants to do, pack the court so it becomes a political body, not based on
First of all, that's what Trump
the justices decide.
That's what Trump did by winning the election.
Let's go.
Trump won the election. He got to pick his judges, and they did exactly what they pledged not to do. To take something that they said was settled law,
just like every other president. That's our system.
I'm not blaming.
Like
I'm not blaming Trump. I'm not blaming Trump.
Right,
see, this is a really weak rhetorical device. I'm just saying one simple thing: you can't take a federal standard, right, and then give it to the states without removing the federal standard. You have to do that, Bill. That's how it works. That's what they did. That's why people are upset.
Yeah.
And that's why over 2 out of 3 Americans don't agree with Trump that everybody wanted Roe v. Wade gone. I don't know who told them that, but it's absurd. What else you got for the audience,
That's a
big man?
fallacious statement. All right. That's the first true thing you've said. That's a fallacious statement that everybody wanted Roe v. Wade repealed. That's not true. All right. Now,
I know.
When you have a Democratic nominee for president saying, quote, I confronted threats to our national security, which is what she said, you don't feel she has a responsibility to back that up at all? What did you, what? What are you talking about? She threw out one after the other with no backup.
Yeah.
No backup at all.
Yeah,
Yet you excuse it as some exercise in a big party. Baloney. She's a responsibility. Anybody voting for that
you're
woman
holding her
at this
to a
point,
standard.
Come on.
What? Come on. Then nobody would vote for Trump.
Her to my
then nobody
standard.
would have voted for Bush. Then nobody would have voted for Obama. This is a nonsense standard. The idea that if you don't give specifics of what you're going to do, then you failed, then you should have said that every time you've heard Trump speak. That you should have said it every time you hear every president speak. That's what I'm saying. It's just, it's a silly standard.
I'm not
this is
in
a nominating convention.
You don't let me talk at least a little, or just going to babble.
You've talked most of the time.
Go babble.
Go ahead. Listen, it's my show. If I want to babble, I'll babble. I'm giving you time on it, so make something of it.
So it's impossible to get through with you. It's impossible.
I'm letting you do it. Go ahead.
Now,
go ahead.
If you looked at, really, it's impossible. This is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. If you look at Trump's speech, and I'm not a spokesman for Trump, remain in Mexico, very specific, all right? Very specific. I had nothing to do with 2025, very specific. I don't want to cut Medicare and Social Security, very specific. Doesn't matter what Trump said, even though he was specific. In other areas, he wasn't. He says, in 48 hours, I'll stop the Ukraine war. How? He doesn't say. So he did what Harris did. But he did provide specifics because he was in office 4 years, and he was successful driving the economy and keeping the overseas stuff pretty much contained. So he went back to that. Look at his speech, compare it to this. This has no specifics, but you excuse it because she's in party mode. Boom. No, we're Americans.
Look,
we're at a very serious point in our history. Very serious point. We need problem solvers. This woman won't answer a question from any journalist. That alone tells you what her capacity is.
Yeah, okay. I hear you. She should be doing interviews. I wouldn't call her this woman. I'd call her vice president, say her name. Sounds less disrespectful. But he said he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. Maybe because he does. Well, look, saying that this woman, I don't know that you'd like anybody talking about your kid that way. What I'm saying is, Project 2025, he says he doesn't know anything about it. He was on a plane with one of its main people celebrating the project. So I don't know. I also don't think it's a boogeyman, and I don't think Project. But the fact that he says he repudiates it means nothing. Why would you believe what he says?
Oh, that's right.
Why would you believe what he says?
It's not a matter of what I believe.
On, You're not.
She says.
Oh, so if he says it, then it's true.
Not a matter of what I believe.
It's true.
No.
Oh.
She says this is his manifesto.
Bill.
There's no evidence of that at all. None.
There's no evidence of it. Most of the people involved in it were part of his administration or his advisor group. And again, I don't think it's a boogeyman. I don't think the Democrats win by scaring people about Project 2025. That's their choice. I'm just telling you the idea that he has no connection to it. That it's just silly. But Bill O'Reilly, thank you for weighing in. Always a pleasure. We're going to take a break here. Thank you for being part of NewsNation's coverage. When we come back, more analysis. Probably, yes, less yelling, but that's a signature of those segments.
I think you should be the Secretary of the Interior so he can shoot more bears. Wouldn't that make sense? He's skilled in that area. I definitely.
He didn't say he shot it.
So Cuomo.
He didn't say he shot it. Yes, sir.
Well, he can skin it, he can dance with it, he can do anything, but he's obviously familiar with bears.
Look, it shouldn't be surprising, but it must be noted that Donald Trump said he was going to give a speech today and lay out his economic policies. And I know everybody will just excuse it. Well, he is who he is. Yeah, I know. But I think that there are a lot of people in this country who are going to vote on the basis of how they feel about how he is. For instance, he did as much talking about the economy and what policy ideas he had as he did this.
You know why she hasn't done an interview? Because she's not smart. She's not intelligent. We have stupid people like Kamala and Joe running our country, and there's never been anything like this. What happened to her laugh? I haven't heard that laugh in about a week. That's why they keep her off the stage. That's why she's disappeared. That's the laugh of a crazy person, I will tell you, if you haven't known it. It's a crazy. She's crazy. That we can't take it anymore, Kamala. You're doing a horrible job. You were a terrible attorney general. You were a terrible district attorney. You're the worst vice president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here. Right? Get out. Boom.
I don't know. Is that what's going to get it done with independent voters like you? Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly. It's good to see you, big man. I got the copy of your book today, by the way. I like the forward, and I love the dedication to your kids. I got a little piece of news for you. Kyle Griffin on Twitter says, RFK Jr. sought, that's the key word in this, sought a meeting last week with Harris to discuss the possibility of serving in her administration if he throws his support behind her campaign and she wins, according to Kennedy campaign officials. Says sought, not that he got a meeting. Relevance.
Sure, I think he should be the Secretary of the Interior so he can shoot more bears. Wouldn't that make sense? He's skilled in that area. So I definitely.
He didn't say he shot it.
So Cuomo.
He didn't say he shot it. Yes, sir.
Well, he can skin it, he can dance with it, he can do anything, but he's obviously familiar with bears. He lets them ride in his car. I think we should have a friendly Secretary of the Interior, and I'm going to support him for that position. Look, I have to ask you two questions. You said to Lance, quote, did anything I say bother you? Can I get that question,
Yes.
Cuomo? I mean, we'd have to have a telephone.
Did anything I say bother you?
From you. Yeah, that was your lead question. I'd like to get that question.
I'm asking.
But then we'd have to
you.
have a telethon. It'd have to be 19 hours, right? And the second thing,
we'll do a special.
Can I have your permission?
Yes,
I have your permission not to use the phrase at the end of the day? I would really not like to say that because I've heard it 7 million times in the last week on television news at the end of the day. I don't want to hear deep dive. I don't want to hear we'll see. I don't want to hear what do we make of that. You know, let's have some fresh stuff. So what do you want to know about Trump and the economy, Cuomo?
Did you feel that what he was saying today will get him the independent voters that he needs to win this election? Extend the base?
I have no blanket idea whether it will get him voters or not. Here's what I can tell you. Donald Trump is a libertarian economist. He believes that the more money American consumers have, the better the economy will be. And in his 4 years, that proved to be true. Real wages rose more than 7%. Under Biden, they went down. Okay, so you accept that. That's his philosophy, and that's how, if elected again, he'll govern. All right, he will do the tax cuts. He will do as much as he can to wipe out government regulation so commerce can proceed in an aggressive way. And that includes things that the global warming crew hate. So that's how he's going to govern. Whether he articulates that or not on the stump, I don't know. I'm not a speechwriter, but I know how he will govern.
Do you believe that going full roundup on his strongest domestic issue, which is immigration, is the right approach?
No, I don't. Because it's impossible, number one. As soon as Donald Trump started to order federal marshals or whomever to remove people from their property, the ACLU and everybody else would file lawsuits and the federal courts would stop it. It would take 10 minutes to stop it. And it would never proceed after that. Even the Supreme Court would not go along with it. What Donald Trump could do and should do is either write an executive order or, if he has a Republican Congress, pass a law that says if you are in this country without documentation, you must register with the federal government. At your local post office, there'll be forms there. You send them in within 60 days so we know where you are and what you are doing. If you do not register, you will be immediately deported. Whether you're living with 18 people, it doesn't matter. Then the federal government can begin to adjudicate fairly, because we should be a fair country.
Due process.
Each case. It'll take years. It'll take years to do it, but at least there'll be a baseline of the government knows who the Hamas terrorists and where they live, and the regular good folks and where they live. All right? And if you don't comply, you're gone. And if you want to do a mass deportation of those who don't comply, the courts will not be able to stop you. You'll be able to do that.
You should,
and that's what you
should give them. You should give them that idea. One other thing, the idea of time.
Why would I give him that idea? Why would I give him that?
Why
idea?
wouldn't you?
I'm gonna.
Don't you care about your country?
Because here, I said this before to you. I have talked to 5 presidents in an interview form and off the record. If any president calls me, and they have, and asks me my opinion, I will give it to them, whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, boom, and I'll lay it out in a fact-based way. But I don't intrude. Okay, I don't call up people and go, yeah, why don't you do this? It's not my job. My job is to watch what they're doing and then put forth a solution that I think would work for the country. Does that make sense?
Sure, makes sense. I've spoken to 5 presidents also.
Because
wait, I want to ask you something, but go ahead.
No, I don't want to sound like a barker at a Bourbon Street strip joint. I don't want to do that. Okay.
Again.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you believe that time is an enemy to his economic argument because we see that things are moving the right way? Prices are coming down, as Biden paraphrased today, saying there's going to be a soft landing. That as we get closer and closer to November, the case that inflation and all these different pocketbook indicators are so bad is getting less impressive.
Okay, you just made a big mistake, and I'm sorry to correct you because I'm in a pretty good mood tonight.
I'm sure.
And I don't want to make you look bad. Prices are not coming down. There's no data to support that. What is coming down is the rate of inflation. That is, the growth of inflation is coming down. The prices for the essentials of life are remaining the same or going up, i.e., car insurance, house insurance, buying a home, food, gas, utilities. All of them are staying the same or going up. The rate of inflation is cut is when it continues to go up. That has ceased at this point. So when the press, the corrupt media, says prices are coming down, that is false. And that should be topic number 1 for Donald Trump. Not that Kamala is dumb, not that she's from another planet. None of this stuff matters, okay? And you ask the question, does it get votes? It does not. It does not. But by telling people you're being misled by Ms. Harris when she says prices are coming down, they are not. That would help Trump.
Right, but that's a little bit of a facile argument, right? If something is increasing, it doesn't just go like this. It has to slide back down to the median price, and then it either starts to go up or down. So obviously, if it's trending the right way, that is a good economic argument to make. It doesn't mean that things are better now than they were, but his case of how bad they are is getting mitigated.
No, it's bad. Cuomo, the price of food is up 20% under Biden.
I don't disagree. Half of American families believe they're going broke.
They don't have any money.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's bad. So all this razzle-dazzle macroeconomics stuff is BS. Now I'm going to give you one more thing that I think you'll find interesting. So
please.
Donald Trump's weakness in his economic vision isn't tax cutting, because you want to give the folks more money, especially now. What it is ballooning the federal debt. That is really vital. Now, this has been said before. It's not an O'Reilly special, but I buy into it. If you allow drilling of oil on federal land, i.e. ANWR, huge, and you sell the oil on the international market, and you take the profits of that and then use that to bring down the debt, you would be an economic hero in this country. And that's not complicated, Cuomo. And you could slice off a piece of those profits to keep Social Security and Medicare solvent. You can do it in a capitalistic way. You can sell what the world needs, which is fossil fuel, internationally, make gazillions of dollars, and use that money because it's federal land. If he does it, then everybody in this country should vote for him. Because Kamala's not going to do it, because she doesn't want to upset the polar bears. And the polar bears are going, hey,
that is true.
The price of seal meat is so high, I can't even chase the seal anymore. This costs too much money.
Look, I agree. I think that this is an opportunity. You got to be careful with it. The United States is pumping more oil and gas than it ever has before, but it could do much more than it does based on certain regulations. I think that's fertile ground also, especially given Harris's deference to the left wing of her party. All right, Bill O'Reilly, I got to jump. So, my friends, one of the things that makes this show different is that I will correct myself and we will correct others in real time. The team is working here. So my producer, Ben Norbitz, said, hey, you know, Maxine Waters probably had you with Trump in 2025. I say that he says he didn't know anything about it. So Ben finds that Trump was with the head of the Heritage Foundation. That's who did Project 2025. In April 2022, that's when the project was started. And after the plane ride meeting with the Heritage Foundation leader, Trump said that the Heritage Foundation was going to lay the foundation for his next term. So that is not a good fact for Mr. Trump if he wants to run away from Project 2025. Thank you, Ben Norbitz. Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly. I've been waiting for the big man's take on what the Harris-Walz ticket means for this election. What is your take, sir?
Well, you know, I don't want to bloviate. I'd rather have you ask me questions, and I'll answer them in a short way, because I know everything about. Yeah, but it's a long-winded thing. What does Chris Cuomo want to know about Walz? I know everything about him.
Do you?
What do you want to know?
Do you believe that Walz is an example of the part of the Democratic Party that is bad for America?
I'm not going to use the word bad. That's subjective. What Kamala Harris did was exactly what Donald Trump did. Pick somebody who's simpatico. Two peas in the political pod, if you will. Exactly what's happened. That's why Trump picked Vance. That's why Harris picked Walz.
Do you believe that he has positions that are uncommon for Democrats and uncommon for what Americans have an appetite for?
Depends if you're a moderate Democrat or a progressive left. So Walz's deficiencies are extremely high taxation. Minnesota, a rural state, only one big metro area, Minneapolis-St. Paul, is the 5th highest tax obligation. And these are farmers and small business people. That has led to an outgoing stream of residents. Big problem in Minnesota. The Minneapolis Police Department is 40% down from its height. They can't get anybody to work for them. Number one, he's a huge spender and taxer. Walz is. Number two is immigration. He wants to pick up health care costs for undocumented migrants. He's a sanctuary city guy. He is going to give them driver's licenses. That's way apart from what most Americans want, according to the polls. And number three would be abortion. You addressed it. It is true. Not many women terminate pregnancies in the late term. But that doesn't mean there shouldn't be a law against it. There are only 3 countries on earth that allow late-term abortion like that: the Netherlands, Singapore, and Canada. That's it. There should be a law. He opposes any restraint, as does Kamala Harris. What else you want to know about Walz?
One little riff on that. The reason there's a difference between allowing an abortion in the 3rd term and allowing medical procedures where the mother's life is at stake. You will find that in the countries that restrict...
Everybody knows.
Right, but I'm saying, but it's a meaningful distinction, Bill.
Look,
because that's all he allowed for.
I see the point.
Okay.
But it has to be a certified mother is in danger, physical danger, by 2 doctors, and that's reasonable,
right,
and most people would support it.
Right. So I guess it's just playing with the radical.
What else you want to know?
Why play with the radical label? Forget about the military stuff. You and I, we don't care about that much. But the radical label, why does Trump need it? Why does he need to go there? Why can't he just argue his policies are just better?
Because that's not who he is. He wants to demonize his opposition. He loves that. He loves to demonize. If there's an Exodus 5, he's going to be in it. He loves to demonize people, and he's going to demonize them as far-left radicals, which you can make a case that they both are. The socialism comment, you're going to sink them, because I believe that Walz is a socialist. I believe that he is in the Bernie Sanders jar, okay? That they want the government to run health care. They want punitive taxation on corporations, which, of course, would be passed on to the consumer. They want everything Bernie Sanders wants. There's no difference between Walz and Sanders and Kamala Harris, none. So Trump is smart to put them into that petri dish, because that's where they belong.
Why do you think Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania wasn't the choice?
I don't think I know. Would you like to know why he isn't the choice?
Very much.
Cuomo. Okay. I'm putting on my Sherlock Holmes hat now, and you're Watson.
Ooh, high praise.
So the guy who really knows what's going on, and we discussed this before, is David Axelrod. Axelrod knows everything that goes on inside the Democratic Party. And Axelrod said today the truth, because Axelrod is essentially not a propagandist. 90% of the pundits on the left and the right won't tell you the truth. They're in the business of propaganda.
Fair.
Okay. So Shapiro was interviewed by Kamala Harris. And Shapiro went in and said, look, here's how I see the vice presidency, and laid out a list. Kamala Harris is a very insecure woman, extremely insecure, which is why she doesn't do press, which is why whenever she's caught and has to answer a question, she stammers and stutters and word salads. Very insecure. Walz went in to the interview and said, whatever you think, Madam Vice President, I think. Just like Vance did with Trump. Exactly the same thing. So Kamala, caught between a governor who she needed, Pennsylvania, much more important than Minnesota, and you would have a very hard time demonizing Shapiro as a far-left guy. Very hard. Her insecurities rose up, and she said, I'm getting the guy who's going to agree with me on everything. And that's who she picked.
It's interesting, because that's not why Biden picked her. So it's interesting that she did something that maybe Biden should have done for himself. Bill
Well, you
O'Reilly,
know why Biden picked her.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
You know
He told
why
you.
Biden picked her.
He told you why he did it. Bill O'Reilly, tell people to go to the website. What are they going to find there?
Okay, so I got word this week that my upcoming book, September 10th, Confronting the Presidents, take a guess on how many first-run books are being printed.
100,000.
750,000.
Wow, that is really impressive, especially in this day and age when publishing is such a tough business.
Knocked me out. We've already have 100,000 sold in advance, and if you want to buy one on BillO'Reilly.com, you'll get it first. So you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, I don't care. But you should read the book, Cuomo, because pertains directly to today in this election.
I will do, and I appreciate it.
There's a lot of things going on in that book.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
congratulations on the advanced success.
Trump believes that he helped African Americans economically, which he did, and the stats prove it, and got no credit at all. It was called a racist, it was called a bum, it was called every name under the book, and Trump's going, what is this?
Quick thing here, okay? J.D. Vance was asked in a scrum about what Trump said. And his first point was Trump doesn't do rehearsed things. This is why he's great, because he goes into hostile territory. I guess blacks are hostile territory. And he says, I think he pointed out the fundamental chameleon-like nature of Kamala Harris. Listen, as a white person, okay, please stop talking this way. People who are of mixed race are both of those racial identities. Do you understand? So if you are Indian and black, and there's never been an Indian of your kind in that office before, but there was a black person, you will still be a first. It's not confusing. You are not a chameleon, okay? You are not an other. This is part of the reality of identity, and it is not fake. It's not that she thinks she's something that she isn't. It's that you are limiting her because of your own precepts, and you think it's going to help you. Stop. Stop. Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly right now. What do you think of this, big man? How much does this matter?
I don't know. I don't know how much it matters. It's 2016, Redu, Megyn Kelly, same thing. Exactly the same thing. So
that was just about how he talked to the reporter. I
Time.
agree with you on that. He calls lots of women mean and nasty when they're not doing or saying as he likes. But the play he made on
exactly
Harris.
the same thing, Cuomo.
I agree. I'm asking about the play on Harris.
It was exactly the same. I'll get to that. So
Okay.
When Megyn Kelly threw that question out about, multiple things allegedly that Donald Trump did against women, Trump got angry. He got emotional. He always does. He always will. It's not going to change. And then it became a big thing. So Rachel Scott did exactly the same thing. No context to a question. No, well, on this day you said this in the context of this conversation. It was basically a gotcha question so she could virtue signal to her crew that doesn't like Trump. That's what she did. She's 32 years old. She doesn't know how to interview. If she wanted to make a point, she picks one of the things that she listed that Trump allegedly did denigrate blacks and asks him about it. Like the birth certificate for Barack Obama. That's an interesting story. I debunked that, by the way, by getting both the Honolulu Advertiser and the Star, the two newspapers, and getting the original birth announcements from both. That would have been impossible for anybody to fake. I did that. So to ask a question about why did you do that for Barack Obama, why did you carry on this conspiracy, that's a legitimate question. But she threw everything in the world at him because she wanted to set a tone. And then the insulting part was, well, a lot of people don't think you should be here. Like, oh, that's not how you treat someone, former president in particular, when they come on into your forum. So Rachel Scott blew it. Donald Trump blew it. And the happiest person in the country tonight is Kamala Harris. Because she's sitting there cackling. Look at this. Yeah, look at this. Look at Trump. He's just alienated millions of black voters who aren't going to really get what happened there. The broadside against Kamala Harris was that she's a phony, that she used one bit of ethnicity to do this, one bit to do that. But Trump didn't articulate it. But let me send this message to everybody. Any American who injects skin color into any conversation these days in a negative way is a fool. Period. You're foolish. Skin color didn't have anything to do with politics, with the way we live and who we are as Americans. It has nothing to do with it. Now, if you are a person who lives and dies on skin color, I feel sorry for you. I don't believe Trump is that. Trump believes that he helped African Americans economically, which he did, and the stats prove it, and got no credit at all. It was called a racist, was called a bum, was called every name under the book. And Trump's going, what is this? My economic policies, real wages are up, black unemployment historically low. Why are they calling me a bum? Okay, well, because identity politics is part of the Democratic Party's platform. That's why. So Donald Trump did not help himself in this regard. This will be looped over and over and over again. More people will think he's a racist, and Kamala Harris is going, oh, look at me. Kamala Harris gave a very, very good speech last night in Atlanta. Very smooth, very under control. Totally deceptive speech. Totally deceptive. No media outlet called her on it. Said Trump refused to debate her. That's not true. Trump gave her a little jazz, saying, hey, you know, when the convention coronates you, then we'll talk about it. He didn't say, I'm not going to debate you. But Harris can get away with this because the press is corrupt. Terribly corrupt. So that's my encapsulation. What else do you want to know tonight, Cuomo?
That is it. I'm going to thank you for making your witness here on the show.
That's it, okay.
I appreciate you doing it.
All right. So people want to get more in-depth analysis with no panels of 18 people. You go to BillO'Reilly.com. You know,
he's criticizing the format of my show right there is what he's doing. Well, look.
Oh, you bet I am. You bet it. You should have pinned me right after Stephen A. And that would have gotten you bigger ratings, and it would have been much. And that panel that you had, those three people, they were good. But they did. But you blew it tonight. That's okay. You're talking to the ratings master of all time in cable news. And I'm honest. Okay? That's what you should have done. You didn't do it. I'm out of here. I'm not going to talk race tonight or tomorrow or over the weekend. I don't do that ever.
Okay.
See you.
I appreciate you. I'll see you next week. Be wary of people who don't like certain questions. You got to answer them, okay? You can be anti-Israel's position in the Middle East vis-a-vis Gaza and not be anti-Semitic. I accept that. I also believe that it can't be a non-issue of having a black woman and a Jewish man. That was a lot to swallow even for the Democratic Party, and I still think it's something we have to think about because I think it's a reflection on how we see ourselves and what our tolerance is.